Hello and welcome to Enterprise Tech Spotlight. My name is Keith Hales, the CEO of Infosystems. Here on our podcast series, we help IT and business leaders get educated and get involved in their IT and business decisions so that they can add more value to the business. Hopefully today we're going to help you do that. So I'm very excited that we have a podcast, or really a mini series that we've been doing specifically on the topic of AI and generative AI. We just wrapped up an AI summit that we did in Nashville. It was a great opportunity to get together with some of our customers, some folks from the community, some folks from IBM, just some folks we never met before, come together, give some presentations around the topic of AI. And I'm going to share one of those presentations with you, or part of one of those presentations with you today as a part of our podcast that Tom Limanek was able to give us. So Tom is he's an IBMer. He works specifically in the area of AI and sustainability. So when I say sustainability, what I mean is that ESG area. So that area of organizations who are looking to find a way to do things like lower their carbon footprint. They're looking to find a way to do things like reduce their electricity usage, reduce their waste. It's just kind of that whole area around protecting the environment, which is a huge area of concern for a lot of businesses. Especially in the large business space, and we're seeing it even more and more in like the medium and smaller business space. And there are great tools available from IBM to help in that area, and specifically how artificial intelligence can help businesses that have made investments to go down that path to watch their impact on the environment. So what I'm actually going to do is just go ahead and let Tom go ahead and talk to you guys. We were fortunate enough to have an interview with Tom right after he spoke at our summit. And I'm going to let y'all listen to that interview. And then after that, I'm going to come back and give you some of my responses, some thoughts, maybe share some things from the presentation he didn't have time to go into during this podcast. So I'll let you listen to him and look forward to speaking with you here in just a few minutes.
I'm here with Tom Limanek. We're at the Artificial Intelligence Summit in Nashville, Tennessee. Tom, you just spoke with our group. Can you share a few highlights of what you talked about?
Yeah, sure. So today's overall content is about artificial intelligence, but I went specifically into what we're doing with sustainability and artificial intelligence. So took a few minutes. We made sure the entire crowd was familiar with all of the different standards and frameworks that are applicable to sustainability, kind of what's happening in the area overall. Then I went through what IBM's approach is to sustainability with, getting your strategy together, getting a good base of information that you could do that reporting, taking all the information that's all over your company right now, and then being able to bring it into a central area and then be able to do the reporting and avoiding a spreadsheet jungle where you're doing a one-off reporting for everything. And then finally, looked at how to optimize this. So we have a lot of software that's going to help you reduce your carbon footprint. You basically make yourself a more sustainable company with asset management, reducing carbon footprint for your computer workload, and then your supply chain as well.
And I'm asking everybody who speaks today sort of this question about, when you think about AI, or when most people think about AI, they're thinking Chat GPT and Bing search engine and stuff like that. What should business leaders be talking about right now? What conversations should they be having inside their businesses regarding artificial intelligence?
Yeah. So I brought up a few different areas. Some kind of sci-fi perhaps for smaller companies where like we're working with NASA that they're taking a picture of the Earth at pretty medium resolution every couple of days in order to figure out, carbon sequestration of what's going on, right? And that's great. That's kind of interesting AI, but perhaps not practical. But then I also talked about some areas where like we're going in to understand these scope 3 emissions. So this is where your company needs to be able to report what's going on with your supply chain. Well, we're starting to use these large language models, these foundation models, to go in, read invoices, and then be able to make better estimates of that. And it's those kind of things. Obviously, the chat bots, the customer care. That's where I think the easiest and quickest return for most companies are right now. But then you can get into some of these image foundation models, and that's where it's going to get really exciting. Be able to pull in just giant amounts of data and be able to use that to help your company.
All right. Well, for those who are in attendance at the Artificial Intelligence Summit today, they got to hear some really good, meaty stuff from Tom. I'm sure we'll be doing more events like this. IBM puts on events like this. IBM has resources available online, and Infosystems is obviously a business partner. So thank you so much, Tom, for joining us, for speaking today. And if you're watching, I hope that gives you some really good information, but reach out for a conversation if you would like to talk a little bit more.
Great. Thank you. Great to be in Nashville.
Okay, welcome back. I hope you were able to enjoy that time we got with Tom. Tom, he's actually a really funny guy, and it probably didn't come through as well on the podcast, but he and I were able to spend just a couple minutes together. Quite an entertaining fellow. Then also very knowledgeable, obviously, on the topic of sustainability and AI around sustainability. Some of the things that he talked about during his presentation is how business leaders should be thinking around the topic of AI and how that impacts sustainability. Let me give you some examples of some of the things that he mentioned during his presentation. So one thing that he mentioned, actually towards the end of his presentation, that I thought was unique, is businesses that are looking to track things they're purchasing and maybe the environmental impact of the things they're purchasing. It can be a hard thing to do if they're having to do that outside of the system, right? So most businesses have an accounting system or an ERP system that's going to be tracking, quotes and orders and invoices that they pay through accounts payable, which is a normal course of business. And so if they're trying to track all of their purchases to understand the impact of those different items they're consuming, if they're trying to track all these things in a separate system, man, that's a lot of work. That's teams of people. That's tons of times. It's a lot more data. It's a lot more systems. It's very manual, and it's very, frankly, it's kind of mundane and probably not very enjoyable work just to sit there and have to key in and rekey a bunch of data all the time. Well, with AI systems, what we can do is we can feed in those those vendor invoices back into the system, that's into the NAI system as they're being processed through the accounting or the ERP system as approved invoices for payment, and read those documents and very quickly identify what on there is going to fall into something that they want to capture and report on later. That could be everything from the type of raw materials they're purchasing. That could be the electronic equipment they're purchasing, like IT equipment or batteries. That if they're purchasing fuel, maybe they have a shipping receiving area or shipment center that they're purchasing fuel. There's all kinds of use cases where there's what you're purchasing as an organization may have an impact on the environment, and so your ability to be able to track all that stuff with, frankly, a very low impact on your team and adding frankly very little work to their day-to-day lives becomes a reality with some of these AI tools that are available. And some of this technology, frankly, some of the OCR technology, optical character recognition, that is how they're actually scanning the documents. Some of that technology has been around a while, but the AI-aided OCR tools, frankly, can do just a very good job identifying these items much quicker and require a lot less training for the software to become very useful and provide you a return very quickly, and frankly without a whole bunch of input from IT and from experts in those different technology systems. Another thing that he referenced during his presentation at the AI Summit was around using data. So there's data that's actually available. I think he said from NASA, where NASA's doing a kind of a low resolution picture. They're taking a scan over the whole Earth. I think once every couple of days. And what that's doing is it's allowing them to gather data on vegetation, right? So they can take a large picture of an area, think the size of a county or city or a state even, and they can pretty quickly identify, well, these are areas where we see vegetation growth, right? We see trees, we see grass, we see just natural vegetation that's obviously helpful for the environment. And then over in this area, we see maybe there's some kind of natural disaster like a fire, or maybe there's city growth is sprawl, right? So the trees are cutting down, or maybe there's some kind of disease, and so we see these trees dying, right? Or these grasslands, maybe it's got really cold and they're all frozen over, and so it's just going to be a while before the grass comes back. So understanding the amount of vegetation that's available just across a large area of land is something that frankly can be quickly done. You feed these images back from NASA back into an AI tool, it's going to pretty quickly be able to tell you, well, we had growth in this area, or we had loss in this area. And that's just another example of how AI can pretty quickly, or frankly pretty straightforward, have an impact on the sustainability efforts, right? So there's different ways that AI can be leveraged around an organization's desire to move forward with sustainability. There's other things as well. There's other ways that assets can be tracked, so that an organization knows what they own, so they have an understanding of transparently what they're using and what they have, maybe what's running in their system that they have responsibility for, from an output, from a carbon dioxide perspective, or from any other perspective like that. Is the different things that they're tracking. There's different gases that are also tracked in some of these studies that are available out there. And then there's also the real live use case of maybe combining some of this stuff together, right? So if an organization, I'm familiar with an organization that is a steel company and actually own land that they make sure that it's forest land today, and they're transparently, their plan is to keep it forest land as long as they own it, to offset some of their other activities that do produce carbon dioxide. And so if they could leverage maybe some of this data from the NASA satellite imagery that IBM is running through some of these different tools, they can know, frankly, kind of the carbon dioxide impact of their forest land, but then also they can, with different assets and different tracking tools from different softwares, also know the true outputs that they're producing on their manufacturing side, and seeing whether or not they're kind of at a positive or a negative on the year based upon what their goals are, right? And so there's all kinds of different use cases that I think AI is allowing us to begin to look at, that transparently before were either very expensive to try to track, very manual to try to track, and then ultimately led to a lot of guesswork. And then also it led to a lot of folks just not tracking it, right? It's like, well, we're going to try to be good citizens, but it's really hard to kind of narrow down on the specific numbers, right? Or it just takes so dang long to track all the data and to get to the next level of what our vendors doing, and to understand from their vendors what they're doing. And it's felt like a very kind of a never-ending process. But today, with the different asset management software tools, with the different AI tools that are out there, it really is becoming a reality that organizations can not only track these things, but they can report these things. And then once they can track and report them, if they would like to make changes, they know which dials to turn and which levers to pull, so they can have a real impact in the area of sustainability. So something that probably is not on the top of everyone's mind, unless your responsibility is in the sustainability area. Thinking AI and sustainability, kind of a unique things to marry up in a business use case. But hopefully that was educational and beneficial. If there's any questions anyone has on this topic, certainly I can get you in contact with Tom. We have some folks at IBM as well that could help in that area. On the Infosystems side, we do have a little bit of knowledge on these topics, and we certainly would welcome the opportunity to talk with you if so. So feel free to send any questions our way. Really appreciate you joining us for this Enterprise Tech Spotlight podcast, and we hope to have you back next time. Thanks a lot.